being homeless, accused of trespassing, and then walking into a courtroom where everyone expects the worst. But what happens next? Marcus Johnson, a 45-year-old homeless veteran, had spent 2 tours in Iraq serving his country. But when he returned home to Atlanta, Georgia, life didn't go as planned. Struggling with PTSD and unable to find stable work, Marcus ended up on the streets. One cold, rainy night, desperate for shelter, he found himself under the awning of a closed bakery. Exhausted, he fell asleep, hoping to make it through the night. The next morning, Karen Whitaker, the bakery owner, arrived to open her shop. She saw Marcus sleeping outside and immediately felt uneasy. Without asking questions or offering help, she called the police, accusing him of trespassing. Officers arrived, handcuffed Marcus, and took him away. The incident was caught on camera by a passerby and quickly went viral. The story sparked heated debates online. Some people sympathized with Marcus, pointing out the struggles veterans face and the lack of support for the homeless. Others sided with Karen, arguing that she had every right to protect her property and that Marcus could have been a threat. The divide grew deeper as racial tensions came into play. Karen, a white business owner, was accused of racial bias, while Marcus, a black veteran, became a symbol of systemic neglect and inequality. Marcus was charged with trespassing and given a court date. As the trial approached, the media frenzy intensified. People took sides, with some calling for compassion and others demanding justice for Karen. Marcus, meanwhile, remained quiet, unsure of how to defend himself in a system that seemed stacked against him. The stage was set for a courtroom showdown that no one would forget. As the trial date approached, the story of Marcus Johnson and Karen Whitaker became a lightning rod for larger societal issues. News outlets picked up the story, and it dominated local headlines in Atlanta. People were divided. Some saw Marcus as a victim of a broken system, while others viewed Karen as a business owner simply protecting her property. The racial undertones of the case added another layer of tension, with many accusing Karen of racial bias and others defending her actions as justified. Marcus, now represented by a pro bono lawyer, prepared for the trial. His lawyer argued that Marcus had no ill intent and was simply seeking shelter from the rain. They highlighted his military service and the lack of support for veterans like him, painting a picture of a man who had fallen through the cracks of society. Meanwhile, Karen's legal team emphasized her right to protect her business, arguing that Marcus' presence could have scared away customers or posed a safety risk. The courtroom was packed on the day of the trial. Reporters, activists, and curious onlookers filled the benches, all eager to see how the case would unfold. Marcus, dressed in a borrowed suit, sat quietly, his face a mix of exhaustion and resolve. Karen, seated across the room, looked tense, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. As the trial began, the prosecution presented its case, focusing on the trespassing charge and Karen's right to feel safe in her business. The defense countered by humanizing Marcus, sharing his story of service and struggle. They called witnesses who testified to Marcus' character, including a fellow veteran who spoke about the challenges of reintegrating into civilian life. The tension in the room was palpable. Outside the courthouse, protesters held signs supporting both Marcus and Karen, their chants echoing through the streets. Social media buzzed with opinions, with hashtags like #JusticeForMarcus and #StandWithKaren trending. The case had become more than just a legal battle. It was a reflection of the broader issues of homelessness, racial inequality, and the treatment of veterans. As the trial progressed, it became clear that this wasn't just about one man sleeping under an awning. It was about how society treats its most vulnerable and the biases that shape our actions. The courtroom drama was building toward a climax that would leave everyone questioning their own assumptions and prejudices. The courtroom fell silent as Marcus Johnson was called to the stand. All eyes were on him, the homeless veteran who had become the center of a national debate. Dressed in a clean but ill-fitting suit, Marcus stood tall, his military training evident in his posture. The prosecutor began with tough questions, pressing him about the night he was found outside Karen Whitaker's bakery. Marcus answered calmly, admitting he had sought shelter from the rain, but insisting he meant no harm. Then came the moment no one expected. Instead of defending himself or lashing out, Marcus turned to Karen, who sat stiffly in the audience. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "I didn't mean to scare you or cause any trouble. I was just trying to get out of the rain." The room seemed to hold its breath. Karen, visibly shaken, looked down, her hands trembling. When it was Karen's turn to speak, she hesitated. The weight of the moment was clear. She stood and faced Marcus, her voice breaking as she spoke. I I was scared," she admitted. "I didn't know who you were or what you might do. But I see now that I acted out of fear, not fairness. Am sorry, too." Her words hung in the air, a raw and unexpected moment of humanity that no one saw coming. The judge, a seasoned veteran of the bench, leaned forward, his expression thoughtful. He acknowledged the complexity of the case, the legalities of trespassing, the struggles of homelessness, and the racial tensions that had fueled the debate. But he also recognized the power of what had just happened. Two people, divided by circumstance and misunderstanding, had found common ground. In a surprising turn, the judge dismissed the charges against Marcus, citing his service record and the lack of malicious intent. He then took it a step further, connecting Marcus with a local veteran support program to help him get back on his feet. The courtroom erupted in quiet murmurs of approval, and even Karen nodded, a look of relief on her face. As Marcus left the stand, Karen approached him. "If you're willing," she said, "I'd like to offer you a job at the bakery. It's the least I can do." Marcus, stunned but grateful, accepted. The moment was a powerful reminder that even in the face of division, understanding and compassion can bridge the gap. The climax of the trial wasn't just a legal decision, it was a human one. If this story made you think, hit that like button and subscribe for more powerful stories.